So I'm coming out of hibernation because Wicked is out in theaters now, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I had the opportunity to see it on Monday. There was a special screening for Amazon Prime members at my local AMC, and so I bought tickets and I got the chance to see it. So it's almost been 5 days since I saw it, so I've had some time to think about it. And yeah, I just think overall it's like a really big success. And so what Wicked is essentially is this retelling of the story of The Wizard of Oz. It's actually more of a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, and is told from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West, which is obviously, that famous image of the green witch with the black clothes and the pointy hat and the broom. So for me, the stage musical was actually the first ever musical that I had the chance to see on Broadway, and it just blew my mind. It's such a transfixing, really immersive experience. It really captures I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's the world building, the characters, everything. It's just so, you feel like you're really there. It's really a captivating experience. And so obviously I was a little bit nervous going into this movie adaptation because, I have such a strong personal connection to the original show. As soon as that opening music started, I knew I was in good hands. I knew they had done a good job in adapting this. Adaptations are tough, particularly when the medium is such a direct analog. I think it's much easier to adapt a book than it is to adapt something that, sort of operates under the same notion of time and pacing and storytelling. I got a little worried when I saw that the movie was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, which is basically the exact same length as the musical is, except the movie is just part one and the musical obviously is, 2 acts. And so basically the movie is adapting what is essentially the first act of Wicked. And I can certainly pinpoint certain things that weren't in the stage show, but the truth is that overall, I didn't really notice, just how much was added. It felt to me like everything that was in the movie that I had already seen in the stage show. I didn't feel like, and I'm saying this as a positive, whenever I noticed that something was a little different or that it was an added beat or scene, it never felt like extremely long, and the plot really never deviated from what is established in the original musical. Even a lot of the dialogue is the exact same, it's untouched. And even the way it's performed, the way the jokes are told, by characters like Glinda, it's just exactly the same.
Ladies, lie down.
And so that's something I really appreciated, because sometimes when you're doing an adaptation, you see a lot of big story changes. Even if you keep all the same songs, they make slight modifications to some songs. I think just one really big one, and you'll definitely be able to notice which one. But overall, they don't really change that much. And Wicked is such a special effects heavy show, even on Broadway, that there are a lot of things that you think, okay, so how exactly is that going to translate to filmmaking? Because what looks great on stage in movies, it can tend, if you do it the exact same way, it can tend to look a little cheap, or like it's not, utilizing the full power of cinema, of the medium of cinema, to actually tell the story. And I'm so happy to report that John M. Chu actually is a master at understanding this. He takes certain elements from the stage show that are done in a very theatrical, very Broadway specific way, but he uses the language of cinema to actually, you know, enhance those moments for the big screen. And so there's a lot of examples where, you know, you see him play with like colors or do lighting tricks that are basically impossible to do in theater, you know, but here you can see, and it's probably a mix of like visual effects, but also like utilizing, you know, camera angles, camera movement, shot composition. You know, you don't have you don't have shots in theater. You know, it's basically, you know, just like a wide all the time, and so utilizing that language that is so specific to cinema, utilizing the cut, you know, in editing, you know, cutting. You don't have cuts in theater, and so, you know, being able to take those things that are specific to cinema and using them to shape and tell the story, the same story of the Broadway musical. You know, when it comes to adaptations, it's tricky because, you know, if they do it right, if they adapt it faithfully, instead of seeing it as a positive, most people, and myself included, will be like, okay, well, that's what I was expecting. And so, you know, I'm not impressed by that because, yes, you should have this song and you should have it followed by this, and this joke is told this way, and so on. You know, like, you know, if the witch is green but you make her purple, people are going to be upset. But if you make her green, you know, it's not that they're going to be happy because they're already expecting her to be green. Any success that the movie has in successfully capturing the magic of the Broadway musical, it's sort of like taken for granted. And I really try not to do that because it's really difficult to take those things that are so specific to the theater medium and sort of reframing them in a way that works for cinema. You could go the easy way and just have them both in a room and just sing. But the thing is, John M. Chu wants to capture what they do here. So you got, you know, so you take advantage of split screens. You take advantage of the fact that they can be singing one word on one day or on one location, and then you can cut to them on a different day on another location, and there's still, like, there's that continuity. You know, you can't do that in theater. And so, you know, taking advantage of those specific things that really are only able to happen in movies, but still utilizing them in a way that transmits the same energy, the same intention that the original Broadway show had. There are certain things that I didn't quite love. There weren't many of them, and, you know, to be honest, they're kind of nitpicks. You know, it's not like it destroyed my experience of the movie or that it tarnished it, you know, in any significant way. On a character level, I think Fierro, you know, I think the actor is great and he does a great job, you know, with the deeper parts of the character, which obviously are the important ones, and he's a good singer too. But I think the way the character is introduced in this movie is not quite as effective as the way he's introduced in the show. In the stage show, when he's first introduced, he's like passed out and he's wearing sunglasses, and, you know, it almost seems like he's like hungover or something. And so you get the sense that he's like this extremely like lazy and you know, sort of like nonchalant guy, you know, and he is kind of. And then you get to see the charming, like, you know, prince-like qualities that he has. And here he's just riding through the woods in a horse. He already seems like Prince Charming, you know. They sort of allude to him being dumb, but I never really felt it, you know, so you don't really get to see that change. There's no like discovery process, like, oh, there's more to this guy, you know. At least I didn't feel it as much, just because of how they changed his introduction. But other than that, when she's incorporated into the story, which is basically plays out the exact same way as it does in the Broadway show, that's when I think he did like a fantastic job, and it really truly felt like Fiyero. Obviously, there are things that are like, you know, sort of nitpicks that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. There are minor things like, you know, the age of the actors. You know, these are supposed to be college-aged students. Obviously, in the show, they're played by older actors most of the time, but it's different when you're doing a Broadway show than when you're doing film. You know, in film, it's actually a lot more noticeable if your characters aren't the same age that they're supposed to be. So it doesn't work as great, I think. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. As long as you stick to making all of them look sort of like around the same age, it doesn't like break the immersion or anything. It's just like a nitpick, honestly. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo both are fantastic, and you know, you wouldn't really want to sacrifice such a great casting and such good singers in favor of someone more age appropriate. I didn't know who Cynthia Erivo was, and I didn't think Ariana Grande was right for the role. Like, I just couldn't picture her. But honestly, that was just a reflection of my ignorance of her, because to be honest, I hadn't really seen her act that much. And to be honest, I didn't really know much about her sing. Like, I know she's a big pop star, but I hadn't really heard her sing that much. No basis for my negative bias against her. I think to me it felt like it was stunt casting, and so that's why I was skeptical of it. I think she's the single best performance in the movie. More than any of the other actors, I feel like Ariana Grande has such a good grasp of the material, like down to a microscopic level. She completely gives herself over to the character, you know, 100%. Even in the way she's singing and the way she's speaking.
I know about talking.
You're good.
So I've been told.
You know, everything is just perfectly capturing the essence of that Glinda has in the stage show.
I need to lie down.
Cynthia Erivo just manages to bring such emotion and such subtlety to what she does with Elphaba. And it's not like she isn't sticking to what the character is either. She really does. But, you know, she sort of brings like her own flavor to it. She has a very different singing voice than Idina Menzel, for example. Both of them are great, but they're different. And Cynthia Erivo, you know, I first noticed this when in The Wizard and I. Her voice is just like so, I don't know, it has such an angelic quality that sort of like moves you just from listening to it. Like not even like, you know, paying attention to the words she's saying, but just like the way she's singing and the way her face, you know, conveys emotion with such little movement. And then she can go big with Defying Gravity. Like, it sort of feels like, okay, she can play big and she can play the small, subdued moments that Elphaba has, you know, equally as well. So yeah, you know, those two lead performances really anchor this film, I think. Extremely true to the spirit of the original. And so I think that's why people are gonna love this. And you know, there's a lot of negative stuff that's been said about musicals recently. This movie obviously is a musical, but it wasn't really marketed as such. You know, in the promotional materials, the first two trailers didn't have any singing really. Like, they had the singing in the background as if it was like a track that is playing over the trailer, but you never actually saw the characters singing on screen. So there's this weird thing where Hollywood's making musicals, but they're trying to hide the fact that they're musicals, because they're afraid that people won't go see them. Another thing to keep note of is that this movie is being marketed as Wicked, but really it is Wicked Part 1. And I think that's sort of like a sneaky, sort of slimy, you know, tactic that they're pulling here, because I knew that it was just Wicked Part 1 because I've been following the development of this movie since it was announced. But a lot of people may not. But it really has no impact on the movie itself at all. It's just like a title card. I think there's a lot of fear in Hollywood when it comes to musicals, but I think as long as you do them right, as long as you capture the essence of what the original is, you stick to the story, the plot, the music, the characters. You don't try to add or take away things. You try to adapt and really adapt. And that's how you get successful musicals. And I know this is going to be successful. It has great reviews from both critics and audiences. When I was checking, when I wanted to get tickets, it was sold out. And so I hope that this can sort of revitalize this wave of like high budget movie musicals. Yeah, I think this is gonna satisfy not just fans of the show, but new fans. So thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Stay safe. Stay true to yourself. And I'll catch you in the next one.